So there's this very widely held belief that all developed societies will tend towards population decline. And I disagree completely. I think it's because you're not paying anything considered an acceptable level of standard for people who choose to have families as opposed to people who choose not to have families. The amount of disposable income for choosing not to have a family is so much bigger than the amount of disposable income with having a family that the population decline as a result is, let's just say, linkable and leave it at that. This is really not the job of a president or a prime minister controlling individual police guys around. The earthquake in California. California. There is that particular right.
We have subdued the rebel.
We have subdued. Subdued. Dude, yes, we have pretty lax policy, but when we do something like we're planning to do with this round, by a cautious doubling, we're going to absolutely lose their mind. And this slider is stuck for some reason. But this slider is no, this one. This one is not. It's very noticeably stuck while it's fairly common that all simulators have some kind of thing that's stuck or just doing something that's not in its foundation. No.
The bill has been. We are awaiting your instruction. The rioters.
The rioters. The child benefits will probably need to be increased even further, but not for a considerable amount, at least yet. We are building a nuclear fusion power plant. For information, consult the UK fusion company called First Light, I think. Consult them for more information. We believe this is a good fusion design, much more efficient than anything we've seen before. Yes, congratulate all of them. Every single one of them.
The rebels have set.
The rebels have set up barricades.
The movement seems to be blowing itself out. Demonstrators.
Very good.
The population affected by the disaster is in a very precarious situation.
It's awful.
Big Mac Mary.
No, it's not as. Our sportsmen are ready.
Big Mac Happy. That had a definitive effect. We've been playing around with some of the taxes.
The sit-in begins to
The carbon tax is ending up being pretty actually useful against uh, carbon dioxide very specifically. Yes,
The bill has been
I do not support fracking. However, I do support increasing the domestic gas and oil production of the U.S. Fracking at the moment has
I'm
too
listening carefully.
large a
How much
risk
would
of
this aid amount to? Thank you for your precious.
uh, water table pollution from fracking. The deforestation tax is at maximum, which is still pretty low, but it is causing this, which means we are going deeper towards reforestation, which is very good. It's a very efficient carbon sink, while in times of crisis, a very efficient energy source. So we are finally below 50% in fossil electricity alone. We have a rather sizable electricity deficit, but we are building a large number of reactors to compensate because we are reducing fossil energy production at the same time while we are increasing the industrial use of electricity. So we've gone down a lot in fossil production. We're about half the fossil production, fossil
Our agents that have infiltrated this organization are still operational.
CO2 production per. Nice.
the clashes have ceased.
That was very good. That it helped. Let's hope that it has an effect on the child mortality, which is, let's say, predictably higher than we expected, higher than originally. If we continue with the trends we are able to produce after the initial onset, we will be getting lower in child mortality than before, but we'll have to look at exactly how much. But we are now keeping an eye on next month's data in terms of drop with child mortality while increasing child benefits. We don't want you to produce children just if the children are just going to die off. That's not what we're aiming for. The fertility rate is directly linked to the policy of contraception use, but nothing else. So it's stuck while the birth rate is actually linked to like how many people are dying and being born. So that's unstuck. I don't know. But if I go from authorized contraceptives to promote, it drops in a single month to like 1.13. If I go from authorized to discourage but allow, it'll jump to like 2.25 or something. So but it'll have a very small effect on birth rate. Well, it'll have an effect, but in terms of real data, this slider is stuck. There's also a few others. This was the predicted drop in the first year, and then the steady rise as we go back to the level that we were at the start of the reform. Because we leverage GDP capita to government budget. We know that in the US, since you have a large GDP capita, you can go through this thing called mobilization, where you reduce your civilian economy to produce more goods for either the country or some form of governmental project, usually a war. But this particular debt crisis is, in my opinion, much more worthy of this mobilization than this particular scuffle in Ukraine, in my opinion. Not downplaying the size of the scuffle, just saying that there are different levels. The US is 30 trillion in debt. It has spent perhaps 100 billion at most, if you include everything conceivably talked about as being shipped, which I doubt is being shipped in a year. So in the same year, conventional logic indicates that the US debt rose by over a trillion. So it's not good, but the debt itself is a far grander problem. And the problem is that the government isn't getting what it ought to be getting from the GDP capita growth, since it seems to be that nobody except very few people are getting anything from the GDP growth. Because inflation eats up the wages of the average people, so even very well paid average people who get regular inflation corrections will not be making enough. So we kind of sort of did a new taxes, but it basically shifted the entire tax focus into the value added tax, and then the rest are nominal corrective taxes towards very specific issues. Everything that we do in terms of economy is directly tied to the sales the population makes. Towards that end, if we have a very preferential policy of sales tax, we will, for example, encourage such things as tourism. And low company tax guarantees low unemployment. Now, low income tax and social contributions for the low class also encourages a rather sizable income for the low class. Still a little bit problematic, but it's not as bad as I thought it might be. Where are we with child mortality? Let's wait for a moment. See what it does. Fertility rate is once again stuck. Birth rate had a sharp jump, but it had very little effect on child mortality, which is unusual. Did it have negligible effect on happiness? Not content. We're approaching the same question. There's the jump in unemployment from the fracking industry. There's one new space program that's still in its funding phase. We need to do one more moon mission before we can actually build a moon base. And we are getting proposals. Taiwan wants to join. That'll be the next thing we'll accept. We are going way over budget, which means we can actually once again shift the launch date to an earlier year. It's probably too early. Let's go with acceptable. Because we'll be getting a lot of extra funding because people know this is the last step before we get the moon base. We're testing everything needing the testing. We're finding the proper site, etc. Still a fairly short launch window and a year and a half in preparation time, but considering the budget for a single mission in preparation for Moonbase is approaching 10 billion, of which our contribution is less than half, I am looking at a very, very interested global community in this adventure. We're also doing pretty well with regard to other projects that are also undergoing at the moment. There's a lot of this stuff that we have talked about. Unfinished preliminary missions. And the preliminary mission big news is this one. Space exploration probe with the return of samples. That's what it says it means. Right. We're actually paying a little over half now, but there will be a lot more people signing up to the project. I'd be very surprised if nobody more signs up. It's starting to look like the projections for the probability of building a moon base are looking likely. Right now, I'm not looking at a salary increase. I am, however, looking at a deflationary cycle increasing the value of money people are already paid, which indicates, by the way, that I need to raise the interest rate. It'll be slowing down the economy a lot, but there's a lot of people trading in the dollar, which is causing this. But our unemployment rate is still pretty high. I mean, I would have liked it to decrease this month, but I accept the fact that we did with the banning of the fracking in the energy industry. And we're also quite sizably increasing the number of gas production and oil production. Even with the fracking law, purchase price per ton of energy is going down. Even with making it environmentally viable, it's still making more profit than before. So it seems like, yeah, they can pay to be environmentally viable and still make a lot of profit. Seems like would be very nice. Yes, we have repaired the housing. Industry's growth is probably slowing down because industry growth is slowing down because we're seeing a decrease in the energy reserve. We're seeing the grid struggle a little. This is way too important to keep patented. So our army numbers doing? They're doing pretty good. The crime rate is about right. We're looking at 3 cases. We increased the number of basically everything around number. This we ought to do something about. This is doing fine.
The relief teams have stopped searching and are preparing to return. Our agent. This day will go.
Coronavirus. Global ball of glow. Global. Yes, we are looking at increases, but not today. Be partner. Is that like what? No idea if that was the right amount because I didn't see their estimate of how much it actually cost. So it's basically only causing an increase in birth rates, and even that is having negligible effect on population growth. I have to consider this some more.